what motor does this boat have?
It's got a universal atomic 4.
So I was actually a little worried about, will we make it? But it's been great.
It's dying. It's dead.
Where the fair winds blow, our home is where the waters flow. We'll show you what we've come to know on board while sailing wisdom.
Cut her hard now. Yep. We're gonna dock for a second and then push off and start again. Grab one here. Yeah, walk us back to the corner and then we'll push the bow off. Clear? Yep. Yeah, thank you. We're gonna go between the bridge and the pilings here. All right. What's up? Yep. All right, so we're on my friend Jacob's boat. We just launched it. We got the sails bent on, and it's the maiden voyage. So we're taking it from South River, where he bought it, up to the Magathy, where he's gonna be keeping it. Now, Jacob comes into this a little more specially because right after we did the video about the 10 cheapest boats, or the 10 best boats that you could get in the Chesapeake, he then went and looked at the Crealock, or tried to, and he was looking around a couple boats right around the time, and then ended up finding this one, which this was a really good buy.
All right, Maddie, you're up. What do you got here?
My first pick was the 1977 37 Crealock.
The Crealock. How did that whole situation go?
Yeah, oh man, I wanted to go look at and buy that boat. I was pretty determined I was just gonna go buy it. Had a whole day set up, day set up to go look at it. Was in correspondence with the owner. We'd had multiple phone calls, videos sent back and forth. The day that I was scheduled to go see it, I reached out to him. He's like, yep, come on over. He calls me 30 minutes later, after right when I was leaving. He's like, actually, let me go check the tide to see if I can even get to the boat, because we got a crazy wind, low tide right now, and it's in this little creek. I was like, okay, cool. He calls me back 10 minutes later. He's like, yeah, we can't get to it. It's so far off the dock. I was like, okay, no worries. We'll just schedule a time later this week. It didn't seem like he was talking to anybody else about trying to sell it or anything. So then the following day, I was like, hey, can I come up? He's like, nope, it's not a good day. Day after that, I was like, hey, can I come? He's like, nope, it's not a good day. And then 3 days later, I was like, hey, can I come? He's like, oh no, I sold it yesterday. A guy showed up with money. So that was really frustrating because I was actively trying to buy it, and he kept saying he was busy, and then he just let somebody else show up. Turns out it's still at his house, but he wouldn't let me buy it. That's a whole nother story. So yeah, so I ended up with this. Hey guys, I'm Jacob. I grew up in Maryland, lived here my whole life. Grew up on the water partially, with mostly on like fishing on the Potomac River, or my friend, growing up, my best friend, his dad had a boat, we'd go out on the bay some. But I've always been interested in sailing over the past like 10 years, always dreaming, watching on YouTube, but never really knew what to do, how to get started. Looked into like sailing classes last summer. I was like, I don't want to spend $1,000 for 2 days. So this year I just decided to buy a boat and I figured it out. So this is day one of figuring it out.
So what boat did you get and how much, and how was that process?
Yeah, this is a 1977 Tartan 34C. I bought it for 10 grand.
So how long did it take from when you started looking at boats to finding this boat to then owning this boat?
I mean, I've always kind of like kept Yachtworld open on my computer at work. Just don't tell anybody. But like my actively searching, I think I was probably only for like 2 or 3 months, just this spring season, I decided to start looking. So a week and a half. between finding it and buying it.
Nice. So in a week and a half, you're on the water.
Yeah. After a quick bottom job.
Yeah.
And checking some important things before launch, but here we are.
Nice. So how's it feel being on your own boat?
It feels good. I'm not at work today. Today's a Monday. Usually I work on Mondays. I told them I can't go to work. I gotta go get my boat. And it's a much more beautiful day out here than in the office.
So what were the other boats that you were looking at?
The only other main one that I went and physically saw was a Corbin 39 on the Eastern Shore that a guy's daughter was selling, and in her Facebook Marketplace profile, her bio was, "My dad has a boat problem and I sell them." So come to talk to her, he bought the boat 10 years ago at a boat auction, motored it home, and then it sat there for 10 years with nothing done to it. So it was between that one and this one. So I decided to buy this one because I could sail it right away, not have to deal with any problems. Even though that the sail drive and the Volvo engine only had like 90 hours on them, that was 10 years ago. So it's just all those unknowns. I just didn't feel like messing with it. Much nicer boat inside, space-wise. It's a 39-footer with like I think it's almost a 12-foot beam. And it has like a little mini pilot house. So it's like the living spaces were broken up and it was nice, but I just didn't want to deal with all those unknowns.
I agree with that. Yeah, when you kept asking me about the one that's been sitting for 10 years, I was like, walk away, run.
Yeah, eventually you told me just to tow it to a dock and then hang out in it. And I was like, okay, I'll just find something else.
So the issue with the one that's been sitting for 10 years is the underwater metals, especially a sail drive. It's had zero maintenance done. So it's not going to go well. What metal is there is probably going to shear off as soon as you put some torque on it. And yeah, so just all those, the fact that it had no maintenance for 10 years, I was like, this is bad. But at the same time, I have friends that they've bought boats that like for living aboard, and it's in a slip, it's never moved ever, and it will continue to never move. And it works, it stays floating right there. The motors don't work, the underwater is a reef, but it's fine because it's a floating condo. But being how Jacob wanted to actually go sailing, I was like, no, not good.
Yeah, it's a nice little boat. It's a good size. I've never sailed before, like I said, so it seems pretty manageable. It's got, I mean, the sails aren't too huge, and it's got a swing keel, so with the board down, it draws over 8 feet, but with the board up, it's 3'11". So it seemed like a really good boat that I can putt around on the bay to try and get my bearings and get familiar with everything going on with sailing.
So why did we have the engine uncovered for this maiden voyage?
Because when I bought it, when the owner showed up to hand it over to me, he decided to give me a box of pipes, and he said that towards the end of the season it started steaming last year. So I started last week trying to make a new exhaust pipe off of the exhaust manifold, and I couldn't get it off. I had it in a vise with a 3-foot long pipe wrench with a acetylene torch on it for like 10 minutes and it was stuck. So I put the old one back on, but now it's not heat wrapped at all. But it hasn't really been leaking that much. So we just kept the blower on, sucking all the stuff out, and it's been doing just fine.
But just being a gas engine, it was like, oh, if we have it open and it's our first time with this thing, we can watch it. So if anything's gonna go wrong, we can catch it real early before a problem erupts or explodes.
With all my expired fire extinguishers?
Yeah, so safety third. Have it open, like you can fall into it, there's belts, there's all sorts of goodies exposed that you don't wanna brush into. But, just don't touch those things while it's spinning because it'll rip your fingers off. So that's how we're doing. But I will say, with the hush box on, it was really nice and quiet. All right, so what motor does this boat have?
It's got a universal atomic 4, which I'm sure half of you guys probably cringed as soon as I said that. And maybe a third of you guys or a quarter of you guys like it, and then the other people, they just have no idea what that is. But based off of my research, people have a love-hate relationship with them. So a lot of people don't enjoy them because they can be finicky because they're carbureted gas motors with a distributor. So you're dealing with old school stuff that can be finicky at times. It's not a diesel. everyone thinks that your boat's gonna explode because you got gas fumes in there, even though you got gas for your dinghy. But then there's a whole nother side of people that actually like love them. And semi-locally up in Pennsylvania, there's a whole place called Moyer Marine with a forum and everything where they just live and breathe these motors. So I was kind of worried at first when I was first looking at this boat, but reading online, plus the kind of sailing I'm doing being semi-close, I guess I'll be comfortable with it.
Yeah, when he told me it had an atomic 4, I was like, oh, good, good. And then today, the forecast is no wind, and there's more wind than was forecasted, but it's still very light. So I was actually a little worried about, will we make it? But it's been great. Sucker, it fired up. On like the first try, it was the first try of the season, so it was it took a little bit, but he didn't have to spray any liquids or anything in there. Just ask it nicely, and then it fired up, and we've been clocking along at like 4.5 knots this whole time.
Yeah. And after the fuel dock, it started right on first crank.
Yeah.
And it had only been running for like 3 minutes or 4 minutes.
Yeah, getting out of there was fun.
Yeah.
That was nice and tight.
Yep.
I used to like be afraid of the atomic 4. When people said they had it, I kind of cringed a little. And I did that when you said it as well.
Same.
But yeah, honestly, like, they're not that bad. They get a bad rap. And like, it's a gas engine. So if you mistreat it and you don't do the proper protocol around it, it's gasoline, it'll blow up. But if you do the proper protocol,
yeah,
you're good.
On Moyer Marine's blog online, they put it, what made me more comfortable was when I read this. They said there's about 40,000 of these made, and there's about 20,000 of them still powering small sailboats around the world. So if you take out half of the people that don't know what they're doing, that's probably the ones that got blown up, or the guys that decided they bought a boat with it and they wanted diesel, so they took them out. The other 20, us diehards, are still kicking.
What are your plans for this boat?
So at first I kind of just want to get used to sailing and operating a boat, cruising around the bay, maybe some extended weekends, staying overnight in it at some secluded places. But like I said, I've never sailed before, so before I bought a bigger, more expensive, nicer boat, I wanted to at least get out there, and it's kind of like my hypothesis. I'm testing my hypothesis right now that I'll like sailing before I commit to a bigger purchase. So for that purpose, it seems like this is a good boat to buy. So I'm happy with it so far.
All right, we're approaching his marina, so we're gonna be getting ready to dock here in a moment.
That's got the light sound extra noisy there.
I know.
Nope. Pop down and look at it real quick.
I'm gonna go in the
Oh,
neutral.
it started leaking.
Oh.
Rev it up real quick. Oh yeah, it's leaking good.
Okay. Not bad. Sounds real bad.
It's going.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. The ones that have padding on them? Yeah. I'm gonna give it throttle, okay?
It's dying. It's dead.
That's the motor?
Oh, it's giving up on life. Nice, bro.
So, coming in, the motor ran well, the whole trip. And then how did it go at the end?
It started making some interesting noises. I could hear some, I guess it kind of sounded like spraying or knocking-ish. So I decided to come down and check the water temp and the oil pressure, which were both fine. But while I was down here, I realized that it was squirting out a little bit of water from the exhaust pipe, which I kind of knew was a known problem. I tried to address it before we came, but then it got a lot worse as we were literally trying to pull into the slip, back into the slip.
So we came the whole way, we were gonna back into the slip, and we're backing in, it's going well. And then I needed some thrust, and the motor was just bogging down. And then you were down here checking things, and then you just told me the motor's giving up on life. All right, so with that, we made it here safely. The motor held on quite well. I mean, it did a good job of not pooping out on us before we got here.
And it didn't poop out.
And it didn't poop out.
The Home Depot pipe pooped out.
Yes, I was looking at that thing. Is that?
That's not the factory one.
Okay, because when you showed me the picture, I'm like, that looks like Home Depot galvanized pipes put together.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Excellent. Good. Yeah. Well, it made it.
Yeah.
We got here on their own power, and we tied up, and we didn't hit anything.
We did not hit anything.
So that's some successful docking right there.
So after all that, I am excited to keep learning about this and have this be my new hobby throughout the summer and get more comfortable with the different aspects and see where it takes me.
Thanks for watching this episode of Sailing Wisdom. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next Rigging Doctor episode. And if you're interested in even more Rigging Doctor awesomeness, consider becoming a patron to see all of our extras. Can't wait to see you next time as you join us out here on the high seas.